taking us through the first part of our report, which is looking at the global economy in which we operate and some of the risks that we think can filter through to our economic performance in 2017. So first, looking at economic growth on a global scale, we see that economic growth has been declining over the last decade. Between 2005 and 2010, we saw the global economy, sorry about that. We saw the global economy register on average around 4.1% year-on-year growth, which has declined over the last 5 years to 3.8% and is expected to decline further to 3.5% on average going forward. Most of these have been the long-term trends we've seen, which have been weighing down on growth. Looking at something like the rebalancing in China, which has continued to, as China has tried to move from an investment-led growth to more consumption, this has seen growth decline to around 6.7% in China, which we saw last year. Growth in commodity exporters, this has been declining year on year. And last year we saw economic growth for most commodity exporters, which is oil and most of the metals, coming at around below the average of 2.8% seen between 2005 and 2010. And between the 5% growth seen between 2005 and 2010, as well as the 2.8% seen between 2010 and 2015. Going forward, over the next 5 years into 2020, growth is expected to slow down further for commodity exporters to around 2.2% each year. And this is mainly due to the challenges of fiscal adjustments, where most countries are having to adjust their fiscal deficits, fiscal budgets to the lower oil prices. Looking at sub-Saharan Africa, it registered the sharpest decline in economic growth. In 2016, growth came in at around 1.4% for the entire region, and this was mainly pulled down by poor economic performance in the larger economies, that's Nigeria and South Africa. Going forward, we still expect growth in sub-Saharan Africa to remain weak, averaging around 3.3% year-on-year over the next 5 years to 2020. And this is almost half what we saw 10 years before, between 2005 and 2010. Our next major risk we look at is the commodity prices themselves, and in particular we'll be looking at the crude oil. Looking at one of the blends of crude oil that we use to benchmark Kenyan prices, that's the ADNOC Marban crude oil, which is crude oil that is supplied by the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, and it's mined from it's gotten from the Marban region in Abu Dhabi. And it's what we've been using as a country over the last 20 years to benchmark our crude prices when we used to import crude, and now when we import refined petroleum. Looking at June 2014, which is around this point when oil prices started declining, ADNOC Marban was trading at around $110 a barrel, and locally fuel prices for petrol, we had petrol prices at around 114 shillings per litre, and kerosene prices at around 84 shillings a litre. Following the oversupply we saw in 2014, petrol prices declined sharply, and that is a trend we saw all through to January 2016, by which time the crude oil price, by which time the crude oil had fallen to about $30 a barrel, and our local petroleum prices had similarly fallen, but by a lower margin to around 90 shillings a litre. And similarly for kerosene, we also saw the prices per litre fall from around 84 shillings per litre in June 2014 to around 48 shillings in January 2016. However, after the increase in the petroleum levy, we've seen local pump prices increase back towards the 100 shillings per litre mark for petrol and 90 shillings for kerosene. Similarly, this has followed the trend in crude oil prices, where since this level in January 2016, we've seen crude oil prices come back to around $50 a barrel by the end of 2016. Looking at the impact this has on our local prices, we see that in 2011, oil prices, petroleum imports made up about 27% of our total imports. By 2011, we were importing around 350 billion of petroleum products each year, and this has fallen to around 240 billion by 2015 and 130 billion by the 9 months to September 2016. And this has seen the share of petroleum in our imports declined from around 27% in 2011, when oil was trading at $104 per barrel, to 15% in 2015, when oil was trading at $50 per barrel on average, and 13% in 2016, when oil was trading at around $43 a barrel. And the main significance of this is the savings we've been able to make. Looking at 2014 and 2015, in 2014 we were importing around 300 billion worth of petroleum products, and this declined in 2015 to around 230 billion, which is a decline of around 100 billion Kenya shillings, and this is only second to tea, which contributes around 120 billion each year as an export. It's bigger than horticulture, and that has been one of the main drivers of the narrowing of our current account deficit over the last 5 years. However, going forward, we expect to see the benefit we've enjoyed from the low petroleum prices start to fade as oil prices start to climb towards $55 a barrel. And we see two reasons for this. One is the decision by OPEC, which is the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. The 13 member nations agreed last year in November to cut production by around 1.2 million barrels each day, and got other non-OPEC members to cut production by another 500,000 barrels per day, which brought a total production cut of around 1.8 million. And this is significant since from 2014, the oil market has been oversupplied, with supply of around 96 million barrels each year against consumption of around 94 million. So as OPEC cuts its production and the excess inventory that most countries were holding starts to be used up, we expect oil prices to start edging higher towards the $55 a barrel, which will then see our import bill on petroleum start to climb back towards the 15-18% levels. Another risk we'd like to highlight is geopolitics and the impact this can have going forward, as well as what we've seen over the last 5 years. In 2016, there were many elections, and I'd like to just highlight three, which is, I'll start with Brexit, which was the referendum on the UK's membership in the EU, which happened around June 23rd, and Britain and the UK voted to leave the European Union after almost 46 years. And we saw immediate impact of this in our local markets, with the Kenya shilling shedding around 0.2% during that week, and the central bank having to use up our reserves in defending the Kenya shilling to avoid any depreciation. We saw the central bank sell almost $200 million in reserves, and on the same week we also saw the market, which was the Nairobi All Share Index, decline by almost 2%. The second election I'll highlight is the US election around November 9th. Same thing we saw. It was an unexpected event for most market participants, and the impact was felt all across the world. In Kenya, we saw the Kenya shilling again depreciate during the week, around 0.2%, shedding almost 20 cents to the dollar during the week. Similarly, the markets also declined, with the Nairobi All Share Index shedding another 2% just during that week alone. Again, on central bank intervention, we saw the CBK come in and sell almost $150 million in hard currency to support the local shilling. The other election I'll highlight is the one in Ghana, which saw a peaceful handover from the incumbent party to the new president, and this marked almost 10 elections we've seen in Africa, from Uganda in February in the east to the Gambia in December, and it was and the results were really mixed across the country, with most incumbents staying in power, and peaceful transitions and peaceful elections being more of the norm. In terms of themes, I'd like to highlight 4 themes we saw during the year, which we see as a risk, especially for our country and sub-Saharan Africa as a whole going forward. The first we saw during 2016 was a shift in the anti-terrorism war, which turned more global. In 2015, we saw terrorism was more focused across 10 countries, in Nigeria, Kenya, Somalia, Afghanistan, Iraq, and such. But in 2016, we saw a lot of these attacks happen across the world, from attack in France, in Marseille, Ohio attack in the US, attacks in Australia, and the main reaction from most of these countries was a rise in anti-immigration sentiments, which foreshadowed the migrant crisis we saw in Europe. And it was a theme we saw across the whole world, with countries turning more protectionist and trying to secure their borders and secure the economy from migrants. Even back home in Kenya, we saw decisions around the closing of the Dadaab refugee camp continue as well. The third thing we saw was the rise in nationalism, as well as even taking precedence over regional integration. Just to highlight, from the time we saw the referendum in the UK, this was mainly underpinned by a push for more sovereignty in terms of decision-making power resting with the lawmakers in the United Kingdom, as opposed to the European Parliament. Even in America, we saw an election that was mainly dominated by America First and a really nationalist approach to the world. In Europe, we saw the EU experiment sort of start to weaken as more countries started to look into options of leaving the European Union, especially after the vote in Brexit, in Britain, where the Leave camp won. Even back home in East Africa, over the last year we saw more heated negotiations around the East African community, which we've been working towards, as most of the countries turned more competitive around infrastructure developments, whether the railway, whether the pipeline to Uganda will pass through Kenya or Uganda. And when it came to signing of the economic partnership agreement between the EAC and the European Union, we saw some countries pull out for their own national interest in terms of protecting manufacturing in Tanzania and other reasons in Burundi. Fourth, we saw populist anti-establishment themes. This was across the world, from the elections in Philippines, where Mr. Duterte was elected, elections in the US, elections in Europe, across Britain and Italy, and the likes. And this is still a theme we expect to see even going into 2017, even this year. For fifth, what we also saw was more protectionist measures and an increasing rhetoric against trade and globalization. In the US, we saw increased opposition for the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, which recently the new President Donald Trump just signed an order to abolish, to do away with. And now I'll just highlight the impact of this for two main economies, which we believe pose the biggest threat for Kenyan outlook in 2017 and into the medium term over the next 5 years. First, I'll start with the Brexit and its potential impact on Kenya. Looking at trade relations between Kenya and the UK, we see almost as much as 7% of total exports by Kenya end up in the in the UK, mainly through horticulture, and even diaspora remittances. We still get almost 30% of our remittances from Kenyans living in Europe and the UK. Looking at our exports, we see in 2011 we were exporting around 47 billion each year during the year to the UK, and by 2015 we were exporting around 41 billion. In terms of imports, the balance has been largely mixed, slightly positive on our end, exporting more than we've been importing. We've been importing around 43 billion on average each year to the UK, from the UK. However, this is all at risk since the eventual outcome of Brexit on Kenya-UK trade, as well as the trade of the UK with other countries, remains uncertain, and it will take another almost 2 years before it's fully clarified. Another risk, since the June referendum in the UK, we've seen the Kenya shilling appreciate against the British pound by almost 17% over the last 12 months. And this makes Kenyan exports more expensive in the UK, and again just further compounds on the concerns for our exports going forward. The second one is the US, and for the US we can look at it in two ways, in terms of the political shift as well as the monetary aspect of it. I'll start with the political and highlight one of the main benefits Kenya has had in trading with the US, which is the AGOA initiative, which was the Africa Growth Opportunity Act, which came into effect in 2001, was renewed in 2004 by the former President George Bush, and recently was extended by President Obama to 2025. However, we saw since the new president came in, he threatened